Namaste Galactic family. Welcome back to the channel, Indigo Angel. Come on into this dimension and come on into this gold container as we have a lot to get into with you guys tonight. There's a lot going on in the world at this time, and everything seems to be revolving around Elon Musk. So it's a little crazy, but genuinely, both of the topics we're going to be speaking on tonight is revolving around him and what's going on with him and Doge and the decisions that they're making in terms of the finances and the Federal Reserve and Fort Knox and all of the gold, the actual bars of gold, all of our gold backing here in the United States. So it's really crazy to me because I literally just put out my gold grid activation just the other day. And I was talking about the activation of the gold grid and the activation of the lava grid and how the gold element in the planet right now is um, activating according to what's happening in the core of the earth. We are coming into the timelines of the golden core and a lot of shifting in terms of new earth prophecy and just in terms of transformation. Uh, all over the earth right now in every single timeline, every single earth dimension. And so it's just synchronistic that I wake up the next morning and everybody's talking about the actual gold itself. And so it's just we got a lot to get into with you guys tonight. We're definitely going to be going down this gold bar Fort Knox rabbit hole. We're going to be talking about the gold murder and the Rockefellers and how this is all owned by the Federal Reserve and how they're flying lots of planes in trying to bring the gold back to the US. There's some really crazy stuff going on with that. And how Elon Musk might be doing a live audit um, at Fort Knox. So they're talking about transparency right now, everything being transparent, the reason for this live audit. So it's really interesting what's happening right now. We can see so much paralleling the New Earth timelines and what's going on 3D Earth and things like this. And not only that, we're also going to get into um, uh, the nature of Elon Musk. Is he a villain? Is he a superhero type of thing? And um, his new scandal that's come up, basically. He has a new scandal. Apparently, he has a 13th child, a mystery child that was just born into the world by a lady who does social media. And so everybody's kind of scrambling on this topic. And, it's really interesting. It kind of ties us into, you know, what does this mean? Is this a a hybrid AI reptilian force breeder program that's occurring, or is this all just because he believes that he needs to be having a lot more children because he's so concerned about population? So we're going to dive into all of these topics tonight. I have my beautiful round table here with me, and we were just doing this on the fly with you guys, and we're so happy that you guys are all tuning in with us now. We have um, some of our family checking in the chat. Earth Sign is here. Jim Montgomery is here. Hey, Jim, how's it going? M is here. And yeah, we love it when you guys check in the chat with us. Just drop it down in the comments. Let us know that you are here with us. You do have to be subscribed to the channel for at least 60 seconds to get into the chat. And yeah, just come on in and check on in. It's so good that you guys are here with us as things are really ramping up at this time. So we'll just take a second to introduce my lovely panel tonight. We'll all just take a moment to say hello and say where we're coming from. And you guys know me, Indigo Angel. I go by Indy, and I'm down here in Pensacola, Florida. And essentially, I am currently hard at work right now preparing for the New Earth Prophecy course. So I've been spending my days and my evenings just working on everything with that so I can bring you guys an amazing course. So I hope that you guys are joining me for that. We'll probably talk about that a little bit as well tonight. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me again, Indy, and all the lovely ladies. I love talking with my soul sisters, and we always have some very interesting conversations that we have when we do our roundtable. So I'm excited to be here. I'm coming from Ashland, Oregon, and everything seems to be pretty good right now, pretty mellow. So I'm happy to get into it tonight about Elon, especially. So great to see everyone again.
Hi, everybody. It's Raquel coming to you from Vancouver in Canada. Thank you, everyone, for having me. Thank you, Indy, for inviting me, and it's so great to see all of you again. Yeah, I'm just excited for today as well. There's a lot of things to talk about, and of course, it's happening not just in the US. It's got implications even in Canada. So, let's go.
I'm Missy, back from the Florida grids. I'm back in Edisto Island, South Carolina, where the Edisto Indians are from. And this is about an hour south of Charleston, where we are preparing to do the boots on the ground healing grid work, which is very important as far as the New Earth prophecy and the New Earth template. So I'm so happy to be here, Indian sisters and everybody in the chat.
Well, thank you so much, uh, Missy, for that. And Raquel and Ani, thank you, ladies, for being here with me. It's always so much fun to have our roundtable discussions. And I just want to take a second to share my new emailer that I just sent out today because it kind of coincides with everything gold, talking about the gold grid activation and how this plays a pivotal role in restoring Africa's sacred energy centers by awakening its great central solar disks and ancient energetic nodes designed to dissolve separation, restore planetary harmony, and activate divine frequencies across the land. And in the New Earth Prophecy course, we're going to be doing a gold grid activation, and we're going to be working on a lot of these particular locations. Um, as I feel truly that African rift has a lot to do with all of the separation wounds that are occurring, all of the war, that's happening. And it's so interesting, it may be this gold and all of this coming to the forefront that's guiding us to, I guess, the core of the separation, right? And it does feel like we're just going deeper and deeper and trying to dissolve all of the separation, all of the fraud and abuse and all of the waste and all of, really clearing out the deep state, clearing out the globalist and all of this. So it's the gold, I think, is what's guiding us right now, which is really interesting to recognize and to tune into. So, yeah, this will be something we definitely focus on in the New Earth Prophecy course. And I did leave links down in the description. If you haven't signed up yet, we have, let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We have 4 days, 4 days left to sign up. And you won't want to miss this mission because this is, I mean, we are literally riding the golden wave of ascension. We are like gliding on it so beautifully, and we're, really picking up on all of the codes that we need to be getting right now at this time in terms of planetary ascension and transformation. And I just wanted to show you guys this picture really quickly. So this is actually a map of the gold reserves on the planet and all of the gold rich locations revealed. And when I saw this picture, I thought, could that be for real? You know, how could all of the gold really truly be, on the West Coast here in the United States and North America and South America? Because, I thought it was going to be Africa, but, if this is really true and this is an actual current template of this, why is that? Was all of this mined out of Africa and why there's not as much gold there anymore? And is that, why it's all over in the United States? Is this what's in Fort Knox? Is all of Africa's gold? I mean, it does pose some of these questions, like um, we got this picture off of a gold website. My friend actually sent it to me that just had like different types of minerals and where they were located in the earth. But what do you guys think about this picture?
So interestingly enough, when you were talking, I was reminded of the Kogi, the Kagaba people that live in Colombia, and what they said is that when the conquistadors came and took all of they had a pretty high civilization, and the conquistadors came and stole all of their gold. And the way that they described the gold was that it was alive, like it was like a living entity. And when the conquistadors, or when people, go and loot the land and they steal the gold beings that they made, that are ancient, they said it's like stealing a human. And so they are actually trying to restore the gold lines and grid work there as well. And they're trying to put back together the mother, like the goddess, the earth body. And so what's interesting about them is that they try and restore the lines by taking a gold string. So they had to get like a huge amount, I couldn't even talk, of gold string made, and they would start at one spot, like along the coast, and they would like run the gold string all the way like around, I don't know, and try and restore and heal the grids around there. So I just really found that interesting, what you were saying, and how when I'm like looking at the map, just like where all the gold is fascinating.
What you're saying totally makes sense. There is something about the gold, right? That, like you said, the spirit of it, the energy of it, it's intrinsically connected to the mother fabric of life, of all of creation. And so for us to be hoarding it and us to be backing our a monetary system, what's it called? The paper dot, the fiat system
Mm-hmm.
with the gold. I mean, this is something significant, and energetically, this must mean something so much more as to why currency has value itself, right? And that this is a living force. This is an organic living force, and this must be a part of the hijacking, like truly, of the organic system. Like this probably is the core of it.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's very interesting to see if, when they do audit, if they will be able to find all those gold bars, but where are they going to take all those gold bars? And it's almost like taking like part of, like you said, like Earth's spirit, like her actual, like we're like, I don't know. It's like, that's the way I'm kind of feeling right now, like taking part of her
Like
chunks of
her,
her spirit,
yeah, like
her
her
like
her
ether.
immune system and
Yeah.
her sustenance.
Yeah.
Well, I find it really interesting it's all on the West Coast here too, because I think this is really what the whole, Trail of Tears was about, and the whole expansion across the United States, in which,
The gold,
everybody was trying the gold rush. Yeah, the gold
Okay.
rush. Exactly.
There's some stuff
gold rush. Yeah.
in Alaska too, right? It looks like a lot of stuff is in Alaska as well. I wonder if it's hidden in vaults in Alaska. That looks like a lot of gold there too.
A lot of gold. And it makes you wonder how much gold is still in the ground here over on the West Coast as well.
So then
Yeah.
that also makes you wonder too, like, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of gold there. Like, for example, the Inca, I don't know about the Inca. Maybe it is the Inca in Mexico, right? Where Juan Ponce de Leon, not Juan Ponce de Leon, but who was it? I'm not able to think right now, but the conquistador that came over, and like the Aztecs that came to the Aztecs. But that whole land, anyway, so there's all of like these, gold pieces and gold, kind of almost like regalia that they wear, but also in Egypt as well. So you wonder, did all of the gold that, the Egyptians get come from Africa or that area? Because it seems like it's on the other side of the Pacific
I
You
feel a
know,
lot of it has been
Northwest.
taken off planet as well. Don't you
Yeah.
guys feel that too? I have a
Yes.
feeling that
Mhm.
that's what's happened as well.
well,
Well,
what's interesting too is when I was down in Florida, I happened to go to this Blue Springs, and we weren't allowed to swim in it because of the manatees. And we didn't see any manatees because I don't think they were in the area that we were in. They were further west by Inverness and maybe where Weeki Wachee is and things like that. But when I went to go down where I could put my feet in the water and take some of the water was gold instead of blue. I mean, there was like muck and things, but the water itself is actually gold. And I kept thinking of all this Egyptian stuff in Ormus, and the real currency is the currency, the sea current, the water. And as far as Ponce de Leon, I actually went by, he was in Florida, and there's even a lot of roads that are named after him. And I went by a place when I was in St. Augustine that said Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we talked about it the other day. I remember the name. It was Cortez.
Yes, yeah. And the thing is, they thought gold would make them younger. That's the obsession with what, like, monatomic gold now, that all this kind of stuff. So there's a whole spiritual piece with gold.
Well, I think Indy just mentioned something about the fiat currency being backed by gold. I don't think that's the case as of now, and I think that's why everybody's running helter skelter. Because I think since Ronald Reagan, he was trying to bring it back into into a gold-backed system, and he failed at doing that. And so now it's just, money for nothing, essentially. Money is the paper it's being printed on, right? And so I guess now when Elon and Trump want to get, get this whole thing audited, it's like everybody's losing their shit, really.
He was
Totally.
killed for us to get put back on a gold standard. That was the whole reason they really killed Kennedy.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
not on the gold standard, Indian, unfortunately, but yeah, that's the case right now.
Well, and it looks like in the chat, everyone's, agreeing with us. Jim is saying gold in the Grand Canyon. Earth Science says gold is linked to the sun. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Um, let's see. We have Jim says gold and silver is sentient. And Shakana says, I have read the gold helps the Earth orbit around the sun via the plasma, via the electromagnetic. And Tyler says gold powers the stargates. Yeah, well, that makes sense. I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if it's powering specific ones more so. I mean, it would power all of them in a sense, but yeah, I do know some of the stargates are different. Like, Stargate 2 is a whole water stargate. I mean, me and Missy were just talking about that the other day, how Sarasota's, but the gold would be a component of it, right? It's not like it's something that's missing from the water. Um,
And if you mix silver and gold together, you get electrum, and that's almost like a green gold. So you can actually melt gold and silver together, and then it becomes a metal called electrum.
And there's also electromagnetic properties of gold itself. So there might be some type of, it might be like some type of conducting material. I can't talk today very well. That, somehow like electrifies the area or whatever. And if you were to travel through a Stargate, it could create something, in the quantum to be able to travel.
Well,
Yeah.
I say I do have this video that kind of explains the rabbit hole at Fort Knox and kind of what's going on. I'm sure everyone watching or tuning in has maybe heard something about this, but for those of you who haven't heard what's going on with the gold, let's just watch this video that I have on it, and because I think this will help define everything for us. And let me just make sure my sound is going to share. Okay, here we go. And just if everyone can just put a 5x5 when it starts to play, just let me know that you guys can hear it okay.
Buckle up, because I'm about to take you on a wild ride down a gold bar Fort Knox rabbit hole. Since Doge has been auditing everything, Senator Rand Paul over the weekend sounded the alarm that the United States has more gold bars than any other country, and it's all being stored at Fort Knox. But yet it hasn't been audited since 1974. So he calls on Elon and says, hey, you might want to take a look at this. Elon Musk replies on Twitter and basically says, what? They haven't done an audit since 1974? Yeah, we absolutely should do that. In fact, he suggests doing a live video walkthrough of Fort Knox to ensure that all the gold is there. Now, weirdly, since he made that suggestion, there are reports that U.S. banks are flying gold from London to New York. And I'm talking about about gold, I'm talking mass amounts of gold, 8,000 bars worth millions and millions of dollars. Also, since this conversation started taking place, it is now raining all over Kentucky, and Fort Knox and the surrounding areas are under flood warning. So no audits are going to be taking place, at least in the next couple of days. What's even crazier is that conspiracies around the U.S. gold at Fort Knox have been going around for decades. And in 1974, the same year that they stopped auditing Fort Knox, there was an article released that an anonymous source said that the Rockefellers were pressuring the Federal Reserve to sell Fort Knox's gold bars at a super cheap price to anonymous Europeans. After this was printed in the newspaper, the anonymous source was revealed to be Louise Boyer, Norman Rockefeller's secretary, and she mysteriously falls to her unaliving because she fell off of her 10-story balcony. How about that? Not only that, but the James Bond movie Goldfinger was Bond discovers Goldfinger's plan to rob Fort Knox of the gold. And who wrote the book Goldfinger that later became the James Bond movie? A guy named Ian Fleming, who worked for British naval intelligence during World War II. And back in the day, people believed that he was using real life experiences to write fiction that now became super successful. You could go a million different ways with all of this information. Was our gold previously sold to Europeans and now they're flying it back? Did it just happen to rain when an audit's supposed to be taking place? Did a counterintelligence individual try to sound the alarm back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s? I don't know, but I wanted to share all this information and I want to hear what you think about all of this down below. Buckle up.
And I want to hear what you ladies think about all of this in the round table. So, yeah, right?
Well, I think she rounded it up really well, right? She's hit the nail on the head. But in my opinion, Indy, this goes back a long way. You know, it goes back to I guess the 1913s when the Federal Reserve Act was first came into being. I read a little bit about this book called The Creature from Jekyll Island, written by G. Edward Griffin. And he writes about it like really well about how the Federal Reserve came into existence. And it was not a government entity. It was formed by these Illuminati bankers, right? And so they were essentially securing their own interests and not the interests of the country or the people. And so they met on on this Jekyll Island during Christmas when everybody was on vacation, and they sort of formed this Federal Reserve, if you will, which later on came into what is known now as the Federal Reserve Act. So this was around 1910 when they met. It took them like 3 years to get this passed in Congress because they essentially had to sell it to Congress, and they had to show Congress that they were doing something for the benefit of the people. But what they did was they had all these people essentially indebted to them because they owed them money, and so they used the usual blackmail in order to get everybody on board. Mm-hmm. And so through pressure, they were able to then pass it in Congress in 1913, and that's how the Federal Reserve came into being. But it was also backed by gold, and that's how they had the gold in Fort Knox, I suppose. That's where they kept it. But it was all certified, and it was all like secured against the money that they were essentially lending to the government through the Federal Reserve, based on this particular agreement. So yeah, it goes dark and it goes deep, and so the usual suspects, I'll just name a few people that were part of this initial agreement on Jekyll Island. They were J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Rothschild, and then you have all these other families, the Aspen family and all of these other guys that, their names keep popping up everywhere. You sort of lift a stone and these names keep popping up, right? And in today's world, like right now in the US, it's called the Council of Foreign Relations. I don't know if that's familiar to you guys, but J.P. Morgan founded this particular council, and it's like 80% of these people are like planted within all over the government. And so they are like judges, they are politicians, they are like all over the place in high profile positions. And so they can't essentially do anything without these people giving them the okay. I think they're called like the 13 families that rule the world. You know, they're known as the 13 families or whatever. So that's sort of the gist of it, you know. And then you have the Rhodes scholar, which is Bill Clinton, you know. He's entangled up in all of this. So, you know, there's like little drips and drabs all over, you know, it's sprinkled all over history coming to present day, you know, where we are right now, where all of these people are implicated, you know, in some way or the other. And so they place all of these people there just to safeguard their interests, right? In important positions in politics and wherever you know they can make these decisions. So, you know, they're safeguarding themselves basically. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. And
Yeah, it definitely
Really
does.
does.
Thanks for explaining all of that.
Raquel, so beautifully said.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say some of that, but you have it so articulated so well. I'd have to look at notes to even say so much. I could have almost gone by that creature of Jekyll Island, but we didn't have time. I thought of it
yeah.
when we were.
Well, I had to research all of this for my book because, you know, I was coming from a different perspective, right? So the highest layer of all of this is the Draco, right? And so these are like the second, third, and fourth layer of like the family of 13 is like probably the second or the third layer below the Draco. And so I had to research all of these and where the, you know, the actual human beings stand in all of this, right? And so I was coming at it from a different perspective, and all of this was just unearthed when, you know, I was doing my research.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and just as the lady was saying in the video too, and thank you for all your extensive research, everyone's saying Fort Knox has been empty for a long time. So there was a president that tried to go in and audit it, but he couldn't get in. Does anyone know what president that was? They wouldn't let him
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, it was Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. And then it was JFK who tried to do something with the gold as well. And this may even be why he was assassinated. This might be connected to that.
But
Is
we
that what
also
you?
heard with JFK that he also had information about UFOs and aliens, basically, and that Marilyn Monroe was going to come out and say something about that, and there's some type of connection there with that, and like the military-industrial complex. So it actually goes hand in hand. And actually, when Raquel was talking, I looked up, and so they took away the gold standard in 1933 when Franklin D. Roosevelt departed from it. So in 1933, that's when the military industrial complex started getting deep, like becoming the deep state. And that is where those families that Raquel, you know, said started gaining way more power. So there's some type of connection here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I said when I came in, I think this is really about them getting to the root of the deep state and dismantling all of their control and all of their power. I mean, I think the gold is coming through and saying, like, no, like, I'm sovereign
Mm-hmm.
and you can't own me. I think this is what we might start to see. Yeah, someone says, yes, I claim my gold birthright. Yeah, we are the gold. And yeah, Tyler says, damn, are they really flooding Fort Knox? That's true. It's so interesting, right? They announced that they're
Yeah.
about to do this audit, and then sure enough, the weather isn't going to allow it or permit it. So we know there's something going on with that as well.
They have to throw everything at it, right? Wherever they go. Yeah.
Is Fort Knox even running right now? Let's see. It's
Everyone's
huge.
also connecting this to the Titanic. One of the families that went down on the Titanic was the Astors, and they are related to Trump family, which before was Triumph. They changed the name. Wow.
Yeah.
So, do you want
Asters,
to hear something
Aspen,
weird,
they're
you
all part
guys?
of the 13 families.
So,
Yeah.
Missy and I were talking yesterday. So the captain of the Titanic is my relative, my great, 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 great uncle, great uncle, great, 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 great. Yeah. It's
Wow,
kind of
honey.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my mother's relative Halverson was on the Titanic. Now, there's a whole conspiracy around whether it was the Titanic that went down or the sister ship. I don't know about that. But also, the Vanderbilt's luggage was on the Titanic. And of course, that came up today. And I couldn't remember the name John Podesta and the whole thing with the pool and Chester Benningham and that whole thing, all that weird artwork that went around a few years ago about the pool at the Biltmore Estate. And I've been a member at the Biltmore Estate. I love to walk there and ride bikes. I mean, it's beautiful grounds. So, it's one of the nicest places to hike near the French Broad River. And because it is a historical place, I think it's important we keep our history intact.
That's a whole other
Yeah.
can of worms, hey?
Yeah.
I think they don't even know how much money is even supposed to be or how much gold is supposed to be there because I keep reading different articles saying like, oh, there's 6,000 tons of US gold there. And now I'm seeing something else that's saying, no, there's 4,500 tons of gold that's still there. So I guess it was Senator Rand Paul that's calling for the audit. And
Hmm.
also, I guess too, I mean, now the time to buy gold was like last week because
Yeah.
the price on it is going up. It's
Yeah.
going crazy. I guess now would probably even be the time to buy it as well. Because I mean, as this scandal unfolds, it's just going to continue to
Go up.
appreciate even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is about to get really crazy. And, was this what Trump meant when he said, the golden age of America? Like,
Maybe.
yeah.
If they do find the gold, he could bring it back as the gold standard. And I'm sure that would back certain things because if shit hit the fan, and we don't have any computers, and you have gold, then that's where the money is.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Oh,
there
for
was
sure. They're
some
going to be doing everything they can to bring
there was some
wealth back to the
something
country.
when Obama was in power as well. He sent like all of these pallets of gold to Iran. I was told that it was in payment of some sort of debt, but could that be some of the gold and how that got sent off? I'm not sure about that though.
Hmm.
Because I know there were like a plane load of it went to Iran in payment of some sort of debt that the US was in with Iran, and he paid for it with,
That
gold
that would
bars.
honestly disturb me a little bit if that's
Yeah,
the case. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want the US gold going to Iran.
yeah,
That would have been something under the Obama administration, huh?
yeah. It was the Obama administration. So I just want to go back to that video that you played, Indy, the lady that was, I guess they say she died, right? She was the secretary to Nelson Rockefeller. So, see that name pops up again. And so she was essentially blowing the whistle on these guys, and she had to pay for it with her life.
I have that video you sent me. Do you want me to play that one where the guy explains this murder situation
Sure,
around the
it's
gold?
more or less the same, but yeah, it covers that scenario. Yeah, you can play it.
Okay, let's play that video.
So the spot price of gold is $2,900. I can't believe that. Oh my
So
God.
how much was it before? So did this just blow up over the last 2 days where this price just skyrocketed or because I don't think this was a gradual thing. I think this is something that just literally hit like a bomb.
I haven't looked
It
at it in a while,
it
but I
went up
remember.
about $300. And then, yes, from last year, though. So 1 year ago, it was at 2000. And then I'd have to look even further back. During COVID, it was even lower. During COVID, it was 1600.
Yeah, last time I looked at it when I was interested in looking at it, was about 17 or 1800. So that's been a while ago. And what I think silver was like $21 or 22, or
Yeah,
it
now
goes
it's
up.
33.
Oh, is it 33 now?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like Jim is saying it could be 70K per ounce and silver historically is 15 to 1. Um, Kristen says if they have a lot of gold and revalue it to a higher number, they could pay off the national debt and back the fiat dollar with gold. And the gold has been gradually going up over the last year. Okay. I mean, they kind of have to bring the gold back, because with everything that I think the BRICS is trying to do with the US dollar, And I know that's like something of concern as well because they're trying to depreciate it. So I think this might have to do with the conflicts with BRICS on some level too. Let's go ahead and watch this video. I thought this was a pretty good one that you sent me, Raquel.
Yeah, I think it's a good one
Naturally,
too.
gold prices immediately began to soar. 9 years later, gold sold for $880 per ounce, 25 times what the gold in Fort Knox was sold for. One would think that eventually someone in the government would get wind of what was happening and blow the whistle. The largest fortune in the history of the world stolen. Shades of the old James Bond film, Goldfinger. Well, as a matter of fact, Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond series, was head of the British counterintelligence service, MI5. Some believe in the intelligence community that he wrote much of his fiction as a warning, as many authors of fiction do. If the removal of all the good delivery gold from Fort Knox can be viewed as a deliberate raid on the U.S. Treasury, then such an operation might well have been years in the making, namely 40 years. Certainly enough time for Fleming to get wind of it and try to prevent it. So just how did the story of the Fort Knox gold robbery get out? It all started with an article in a New York periodical in 1974. The article charged that the Rockefeller family was manipulating the Federal Reserve to sell off Fort Knox gold at bargain basement prices to anonymous European speculators. 3 days later, the anonymous source of the story, Louise Auchincloss Boyer, mysteriously fell to her death from the window of her 10th floor apartment in New York. How would Mrs. Boyer have known of the Rockefeller connection to the Fort Knox gold heist? She was the longtime secretary of Nelson Rockefeller. For the next 14 years, this man, Ed Durrell, a wealthy Ohio industrialist, devoted himself to a quest for the truth concerning the Fort Knox gold. He wrote thousands of letters to over 1,000 government and banking officials, trying to find out how much gold was really left and where the rest of it had gone. Edith Roosevelt, the granddaughter of President Teddy Roosevelt, questioned the actions of the government in a March 1975 edition of the New Hampshire Sunday News. Allegations of missing gold from our Fort Knox vaults are being widely discussed in European financial circles. But what is puzzling is that the administration is not hastening to demonstrate conclusively that there is no cause for concern over our gold treasure, if indeed it is in a position to do so. Unfortunately, Ed Durrell never did accomplish his primary goal, a full audit of the gold reserves in Fort Knox. It's incredible that the world's greatest treasure has had little accounting or auditing. This gold belonged to the American people, not the Federal Reserve and their foreign owners. One thing is certain, the government could blow all of this speculation away in a few days with a well-publicized audit under the searing lights of media cameras. It has chosen not to do so. One must conclude that they are afraid of the truth such an audit would reveal. What is the government so afraid of? Here's the answer. When President Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, his conservative friends urged him to study the feasibility of returning to a gold standard as the only way to curb government spending. It sounded like a reasonable alternative, so President Reagan appointed a group of men called the Gold Commission to study the situation and report back to Congress. What Reagan's Gold Commission reported back to Congress in 1982 was the following shocking revelation concerning gold. The U.S. Treasury owned no gold at all. All the gold that was left in Fort Knox was now owned by the Federal Reserve, a group of private bankers, as collateral against the national debt. The truth of the matter is that never before has so much money been stolen from the hands of the general public and put into the hands of a small group of private investors, the money changers.
You know what that had me thinking about? It's like we're clearing out the unholy trinity, which is London, I think Paris, and Washington, D.C. And it's kind of like the purge began over here in DC, and so it's going to start to trickle down, through London and eventually through Paris, France. I think because the deep state it's almost like, I think, was it Dan Cooper that said it was 200 corporations essentially is what the deep state actually was. And so it's really embedded into all of the governments. And I really feel like the head of it is in London.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be interesting? United States broke away from Britain, or I mean, like breaking away, like during the Revolutionary War. And then that is where the control is still. Wouldn't
That's
that
what they
be
want you to think, though, Ani. That's what they want the people to think. They
Yeah.
are all working behind the scenes as one team.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like, see, these bankers, they're all one group of people, essentially, right? They're just
Yeah.
scattered all over the world, and they groom their families or they groom the people that they work with to essentially be like, gatekeepers for their wealth and their well-being. And so they implant these people in high positions and they groom them in such a way that, if something goes wrong, then they know who to call when they're in trouble, which is what's happening right now. And that's
Yeah.
why they hate Trump, because he's the wild card in all of this, and
Yep.
he's like, walking into the temple and turning over the tables.
That's what I
But
was
so
going to
is
say.
Elon.
They said it took somebody that couldn't be bought
Yeah,
to come in and dismantle it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
like that Bible verse you were just saying, Raquel, with Yeshua going into with the money changers. I was thinking of
Yeah.
that because the guy actually said the word the money changers.
Yeah.
Like history is repeating itself. But yeah, definitely, I think, Elon and Trump are shaking things up big time.
Big time.
History is repeating itself because did you hear the story that's unrelated? But I got to tell you this: there was a kayaker that got swallowed by a whale, and then the whale released him. It's just like Jonah and the whale. This really happened.
Interesting.
You are like the wild card, Missy.
I know, Missy's our wild card.
Well, I just had to bring that up because we're going biblical here. So because of all these flood warnings and all this stuff, and all these earthquakes could trigger tsunamis, you're safe in the belly of a whale, right? So
Well, isn't that what happened to Pinocchio?
Yep.
Didn't he get swallowed up in the whale?
Yep.
Bringing back some childhood memories here of watching that one. Well, yeah, I mean, well, like you said, yeah, I think it goes back to the monarchy. Someone here put Queen Elizabeth
Mhm.
goes back to War of 1812, U.S. London, who owns who? It's Anunnaki energy and hybrids running the Matrix, totally.
Yeah, it's the 13 families.
Yeah.
Essentially, it comes back to
Well,
that, right? And they're all over the world. They just, yeah, they just have their little minions running around doing all the grunt work.
the Archons.
Yeah.
Yep. Archonic deception strategies. They're trying to create firewalls. They're trying to create um what's it called? There's another word for it. Not a firewall, but
A
it's another
buffer?
type of wall.
A buffer?
A buffer wall or like there's another name for it. Can't think of it right now. But yeah, they create a lot of, illusions and deceptions, and it's just all buried up underneath so much history that it really requires a lot of people who know what's happened throughout time. And I really think that's what's happening. You see a lot of these old timers coming forward and like telling them what they need to do. Like Senator Rand Paul was the one who like brought this to the attention. I mean, isn't he like old? He's like 70s, 80s or something like that. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
even this guy, Edward Griffin, that wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island, if you look him up, he's been talking about this since the 1920s. And he's like he's a really well-educated guy. He's been like, I think he's a professor or something like that, but he's like really, really, well-to-do in terms of, like research. And he's been writing numerous books about this this stuff going back all the way to the 1900s, like the early 1900s. And so, his book was written way, way back, and nobody would listen to him really because, um, you know, they didn't have anything to back him up really. And then, he was thwarted by all of these people in government, and he's received, death threats and things like that. And so that's the go-to for them, right? You either kill them off or you send them death
Yeah.
threats, right?
Or you totally like destroy their name
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Well, it
Yeah.
really makes you wonder what are they going to do when Elon actually gets in there or tries to get in there? Are they going to actually allow this to happen?
Well, I think he should do what he said he's going to do. Just go live and take a camera, and he should take he should
Yeah.
take he should take the president with him.
He needs serious like backup,
Yeah.
you know.
Speaking of Elon Musk, okay, he seems to be like the octopus in all of this. He's like a hydra with everything that he's connected to and involved in. I have a list here of everything. Elon at the World Government Summit warning of a possible dystopian future for humanity versus AI. In a movie, would Elon be the good guy or the bad guy? He's building Starlink, which equals Skynet. He's building a humanoid robot army, which also equals Skynet. He's building the AI control system, which is Grok, which I haven't tried Grok yet. I don't know. Um, got to play around with that one. He's building the global interface for the new and improved digitized financial system of control, which they're saying is X. Okay, or it's connected to X. He's building the merger of man and machine, plugging us into the AI control grid Neuralink. He's at the forefront of Agenda 21, which is Tesla and his Boring Company. He's pushing the mRNA gene editing technology. He's pushing universal basic income. And now he's got four baby mamas, maybe five. We don't even know. So I think this was what I wanted to come back to was this pushing of universal basic income. When I tune into that, because this is what I picked up on yesterday. Remember, I texted all of you and I said, I feel like why he is offering to do all this, why he's sleeping on the floor of the USAID building or wherever he's doing his audits, I don't know, is because I think he wants this universal basic income thing to be a reality, that he foresees this being a necessity for his 2030 vision of the AI robots basically taking over. So I think that's why he's like, oh, we got to fix up everything with the finances so we can hurry up and get us in a position so we can do the universal income and have all the robots.
Yeah, and he also said too, he said that in the future, I think I sent it to you. I'm not sure, but it was on one of the X. Okay, I don't know, one of those videos. But he basically said that in the future, we probably won't even need money because all of these systems will be taken care of already. So then what is money then? And so it just brings up a really interesting question. And yeah, we're definitely going down this. He also said too in that there will be those that are able to use their intelligence to be able to work with the AI. And then there will be those who will be losing their intelligence and will basically be like drones. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. And so if everything's done for us, what are we going to gain? How are we going to work our
Right.
brains? So,
Right. Good point. Maybe I should go ahead and play this video with him then. This one is
I just
okay.
want to plant one small seed there. This goes back to the World Economic Forum and their agenda too, right? Aren't they wanting that income to come in as well?
yeah.
So it's really dangerous ground. I don't know. It could be a good thing, but at the same time, we still don't know what the repercussions are and what the back end is and what they're hoping to achieve with it, right?
Well, I
People
mean,
have
we
been
could look at it. We could look at it like this. Sorry, Missy, just one second. I saw something today that said, being creative, being able to live in a state of creation and is technically 5D, right? What's the main reason why nobody on the earth can sustain a total 5D existence in reality because we're always thinking about bills, finances, money, having to be grounded, having to maintain the home front type of thing. And that not being able to tap into our creative powers is pretty much the source for most of the depression that people have, is because they can't be fulfilled in their purpose because they're not able to create from their heart, create from their imagination, create from their source of inspiration, and they're constantly being drugged down into this financial slavery. So, you know, you said, I think we're so uh hesitant and skeptical of this universal basic income because what it really feels like by doing that is we're like somehow giving away our power because somehow money makes us feel like this is how we can command, this is how we can make choices, and this is what we've been doing for generations. I mean, this is literally in our generational programming. So it's really going to take something significant to deprogram that generationally and find a new way of existing where maybe we can have the ability to tap in. But I don't know if I like the idea of the robots coming in and taking over all of the jobs. I mean, it's definitely something that we have to approach in a way in which, like I think Elon says in this video, where it's setting things up in a way that the AI is programmed with morality on the behalf of humans, so that way it doesn't take away from. He says it has to be programmed with truth and transparency, and that was very like
Yeah.
important or very significant that it's
Integrity.
done that way. Yeah.
Well, I think they're heading towards frequency, right? And tuning in, like, say, my frequency is, it's got a specific frequency, right? So I think if they tie it into with individual frequency, then nobody can mess with it, right? So it's like a thumbprint, right? Like my individual frequency is my own, nobody can mess with that, right? So if they can tie in AI with that, then I think it would work.
The
Because
only thing is, though, it's not just Elon and him creating them. There's all these other companies that are doing
yeah,
it too, and
and
they are not
that's
following it.
yeah, and that's where the thing could go wrong, right? It's like, if you are going to keep it with integrity, then it would work. But if you have these other people coming in for the sake of money or greed, then it could go completely wrong, right? So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very tricky path.
It's super tricky because we know throughout history that at some point, there's always a spiraling of greed, envy,
Yeah.
lust, power. There's a dissension cycle that comes through, and it's something that seems to hold a lot of significance in accordance to the golden age or the golden era, because how long are these golden eras or these golden ages actually lasting in comparison to dissension timelines or dissension cycles in the earth, because it feels like, we didn't even get to this potentiality of the golden age until we've come into the age of Aquarius. And so the age of Pisces was, a pretty rough go. And those eras, those spans would be when, we'd be looking at this total like AI takeover thing. But then it poses the question, do we trust our evolution? Do we trust source? Do we trust what we are and what we are becoming and kind of like surrendering that too in some way in which
Well, and I think what you said is very important, right? Like, if you leave all of this aside, like if you leave the political scene aside, if you leave the government aside, it comes back to your own creativity and what you are here to do, right? And that again comes back to your spirituality and, your connection to the higher realms, if you will. Like, what is the purpose of your life here? Is it to make money or is it to evolve your soul, right? So you have to make that choice on a personal level. And so once you make that choice, then it becomes very clear what path you will be taking. So yeah,
I
it's
see two paths. I see one path going towards the transhumanism path, and those, because our bodies physiologically cannot travel in space. So
no.
maybe those beings are the ones that are going to go the transhumanism route. Maybe they are the ones that are going to travel out in space. And maybe the ones that don't want to do that, we want to be Earth-based, are going to be here on the planet, you know? And so I think I see a division in humanity. One's, being human and earth-based, the other one being transhumanism and traveling in space.
I call that the scenic route, Ani.
Yeah.
Because that's the route that the Draco have taken, all these hundreds and hundreds of years, right? Essentially, they didn't want to align with it's called the
Yeah.
evolutionary process in my
Yeah.
book, and what I've learned from the interdimensional beings that I work with, right? And so that's what the creator created for us, as a guide for our soul's evolution. But the Draco didn't want to have anything to do with it, and so they created this false system, which we're all stuck in right now. And so, I guess that's the remnants of what you're talking about. If the transhumanism goes that way, they will be in one of those loops, right? They'll be taking that
Yeah. And
newly
that's their choice.
created, the newly created scenic route, right? Yeah. Yeah,
And that's their
absolutely.
choice. If they, I mean, and we have, and like you said, it all stems down to choice. We have the choice to decide what route we want to take.
Yeah.
Speaking of robots, guess what? Trump has a robot dog as my cat's meowing over here. This was predicted by James Redfield in his book, The Celestine Prophecy, years ago, about things being more automated. And it makes me think back a few years ago when the white hats were talking about the quantum financial system, so that way they could audit things and money couldn't go towards these crazy programs like Doge is exposing, all this, gender reassignment, all these different, things going on. And that this could be like the setup for what they say, Nasara Gasara, which I'm not sure whether that's true, but maybe it is coming forth.
That's exactly what I was just thinking when you were saying that I think this is the spark of the timelines of Nasara Jasara that we're starting to see right now. And that is tied to, I think it's tied to the ascension path with that. So I got to freshen up on that a little bit. But yeah, it's basically universal income, right? That's what Nasara Jasara is.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then there's that other thing that they said during Agenda 2030, you will own nothing and be happy.
Be happy. And yeah.
Which
That's
is that
why
15 city thing, but now that America is like the new Atlantis and the Gulf of America, instead of it going towards China, maybe that's shifted. I don't know.
Well, do we want to watch this video here that we have of Elon talking about all of this? And then we'll maybe riff off
Yeah,
it
that
a
was
little
a good
bit.
one.
Okay, let's do that.
Where do you think the biggest impact in terms of returns are going to be?
Well, I think once you have humanoid robots and deep intelligence, you basically have quasi-infinite products and services available. So with Tesla building the most advanced humanoid robot, then those humanoid robots can be directed by deep intelligence at the data center level. You can say you can produce any product, provide any service. There's really no limit to the economy at that point. You can make anything, provided, like I said, so I'm not sure at that point will money even be meaningful. I don't know. It might not be. Because the economic output is productivity per capita times how many people do you have. If in the form of humanoid robots you have no meaningful limit on the number of robots, and the robots can basically do anything, then you'll have a sort of a universal high income situation. Anyone will be able to have as many products and services as they want, with the exception of things that say have artificial scarcity, like a particular piece of art or something like that. But for any goods and services, they'll be available to everyone.
So you've been...
It's going to be a very different world, In fact, I recommend that people read maybe the Ian Banks, the culture books, for a frame of reference. Because money is really like a database or an information system for resource allocation. But if you don't have a scarcity of resources, it's not clear what purpose money has.
Have you watched the movie Idiocracy?
Yes.
How do you guarantee that we don't end up in that world if we don't need money, if AI can think for us and do all these tasks, if as people, we're dependent on something else to run the society and everything around it? How do we not end up in that world? In the long term, I mean.
Well, I think idiocracy was basically saying that if smart people don't reproduce, but only dumb people do, then everyone's going to be dumb. I mean, that's basically what we're saying. That's the opening sequence of Idiocracy. The first 10 minutes are amazing. And I hear people unironically say the statements that are said in the opening sequence of Idiocracy, where they don't have they're too busy with their careers to have kids, and they keep postponing having kids for their careers until they're too old to have kids, and then they don't have kids. And I've heard many people be like that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we might be headed to a bimodal human intelligence distribution, where there's a small number of, it's kind of maybe more like Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, where you've got sort of a small group of very smart humans, but then maybe the average intelligence drifts lower over time, potentially. Because we have assortative mating, in the last few decades or several decades that did not exist before. So, but human intelligence, I think, will be dwarfed by machine intelligence. I'm not sure how to feel about that, except that it appears to be inevitable. That at some point, human intelligence will be a very small fraction of total intelligence. Digital intelligence will be more than 99% of all intelligence in the future. So hopefully the computers are nice to us. But I think
wishful thinking. Wishful thinking.
I hope so. I think it matters how we bring up AI, because you can think of AI like a super genius child, but it still matters even if you have a super genius child. What sort of values do you instill in that child? What do you say that teach that? How do you, as a child's growing up, what values do you teach the child? And something that I think is extremely important is to be maximally truth-seeking. And I think that's in some sense, what's the most important thing for AI safety? I think it's to be maximally truth-seeking. And I think also curiosity is important. And I think if it's curious and truth-seeking, it will foster humanity, and because it would be curious about how humanity would develop. And so I think that then it would probably, if it's curious, it would be curious about, okay, let's see how the humans do. Let's foster their development. And if it's truth-seeking, we can avoid dystopian outcomes. An example being say when Google Gemini was programmed to make every output be diverse, even if it didn't match reality, so it was asked to produce an image of the founding fathers of the United States, and instead produced an image of a group of diverse women, which is factually untrue, But the problem is if hypothetically an AI is designed for DEI, diversity at all costs, it could decide that there are too many men in power and execute them. So problem solved. Or it could decide that that misgendering is the worst thing that could possibly happen. In fact, I believe, not to pick on Gemini, but I think because ChatGPT has had this issue too, is if you ask the AI which is worse, misgendering Caitlyn Jenner or global thermonuclear warfare, and it said misgendering Caitlyn Jenner, which is troubling. Because then it could decide, and in fact, even Caitlyn Jenner weighed in and said, "No, definitely misgender me. That's way better than nuclear war." But if you have these crazy things that are untruthful, that are programmed in, that don't reflect reality, then you could have a very dystopian outcome. To give you another example, like Arthur C. Clarke, who is very good at predicting the future. You know, he did 2001: Space Odyssey. Many of the things he predicted, in fact, well, I think almost all the things he predicted came true. And one of the things he was trying to say in 2001: Space Odyssey was that you should not teach AIs to lie. So the reason that, if anyone's watched that movie, the reason it wouldn't, the AI refused to open the pod bay doors to let the astronaut back in, was because the AI had been told to take the astronauts to the monolith, this alien artifact, but also that they could not know about the monolith. So it came to the conclusion that it must take them there dead. And so that's why it wouldn't open the pod bay doors. The lesson there being is very important for AIs to be truth maximizing.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that.
That was kind of long. Yeah. So we have some comments here in the chat. Yeah, M says Elon is an AI puppet. Earth Sign says, where's the off button? Yeah, I mean, I think when we watch this kind of stuff, I mean, we have to definitely filter it through our own lens and we have to, I guess, be careful what we're really bringing in, and trying to make those grounded decisions about reality, what's real and what's not, I think we do have to question his morality. We do have to question his motives. We do have to question his bigger picture. It is troubling that he does have so much mesmerization by the international community. I mean, you see he's addressing like an entire Arab nation here. And, everyone's watching him as if, he's the man. He has all the information. So they're really kind of taking in everything he's saying. So I mean, he's influencing the technological revolution on the planet. And I think people do see him kind of like the head guy of that.
Mhm.
So I mean, we do have to hold him accountable, I think, to whatever his morality and motives are. And I think one crack that we've seen with it recently, Ani, is this whole scandal coming up with his 13th child. And looking at who he's selecting as his mates, I mean, that can kind of tell us something for one. I mean, if he's so concerned about intelligence, and I think he's also selective upon what's valuable and what's not according to intellect. You'll notice that he favors one child over the rest of his other 12. And why? Because that's the child that resembles him the most in terms of his intellect. And also, I think it has something to do with that particular wife that he was with, Grimes, that like he was the most infatuated with her because she probably inspired most of his AI revolutionary ideas because she was very AI thought based as well. I mean, they named all three of their children. Can't believe he had three children with her, by the way. But they named all three of them some sort of like technological name. I
One
mean,
of
they
them's
sound like
techno.
robots. Yeah.
Yeah, the third one's like techno something, and I don't even know what the girl is. You have to look it up.
I had the names of them somewhere here. Yeah,
And
I'll have to go.
he said
Grimes.
on Joe Rogan, I remember years ago, that he was not good in relationships because it's interesting. These brilliant people don't seem to have emotional intelligence. I mean, look at Steve Jobs too. Perfect example with the whole relationship thing, and even Nikola Tesla didn't really have relationships.
He
So
didn't have any children, but he didn't have any children. He didn't, he had relationships here or there, but then he didn't have children. Steve Jobs had children. You kind of screw up your children a little bit,
yeah,
you kind of have to have some social skills, but he is neurodivergent. So you kind of have to step back and look at it from that lens. However, you still are affecting all those children. A lot of people you're affecting, a lot of karma.
right.
I was trying to find the names of the kids because it is kind of interesting.
You'll have to share your screen because we can't pronounce it.
I know. Let's see. Well, I know he's having a custody battle with Grimes currently. Oh, okay, so their second child that was born via surrogate was named Exa Dark Sidereal Musk. Exa Dark Sidereal Musk. Why would they name her Dark? That's interesting. Who they call Y for short, so they have X and Y. Yeah, I guess she was born via surrogate and the birth was a secret. I don't know why she would have three children with him. I mean, she can't even get custody of the one. And again, I think this plays to his favoritism. He clearly favors X out of all the other kids. And is that why he's having so many at the end of the days? Because he doesn't think they're all going to be winners, so he's just waiting for the ones that have the right genetic code to pop out, so he can keep that one as his protege. You can see that X is clearly being groomed to be Elon's protege. Yeah, his name is XAEA12. They call him sometimes XAI Archangel, and X for short. Yeah, they call him Archangel.
Oh, I don't like that AI Archangel. Ugh. Ugh. That's creepy.
Can I plant a seed going back to his birth, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's part of the Illuminati family, unfortunately. And this has come through from a testimony by somebody called Jessie Zabota. She's right now like a whistleblower, and she's a federal witness. And she's come forth with all of these different things. And she was, I guess, groomed as part of the Illuminati family along with Elon. They were kids together, being groomed together. So she knows him, excuse me, from the age of 3 to I think about 9 is when they were training together. And so she's talked about the projects that they worked on together, and they were groomed in all of these dark arts, if you will. So it's like, and they obviously have like I guess what would you call it, like clairaudience and clairvoyant sensitivities as children, right? And so that's why they're selected to do all of these things by their Illuminati families, I suppose. So they were both groomed. And the projects that she mentioned were Project Looking Glass, Star Wars Now, and the Voice of God project. And so all of these are like, they go into like mind control, they go into like looking into future eventualities and future timelines. But what you have to think about is it comes back to very dark ideologies, if you will, because it's the Luciferian Brotherhood, it's the Order of Melchizedek, and it's very, very dark. And so they were basically trained to look at future timelines, and as children, right from the age of 3, they were basically being groomed to become Illuminati children. And so Jessie Zabota has found God, if you will, right? So she turned against this entire lineage, and so she is now working for the light, so to speak. And so she's rejected all of these satanic rituals, and she's now talking about all of the secrets. And so she's revealed the actual structure of this entire I don't know. I guess you could call it the economic, the political, and the spiritual structure of how this whole thing works, right? And so they have like, and she's named people high up in the political structure. She's got like presidents. She's got like Bill and Hillary Clinton in there. She's got the Obamas. She's got all kinds of people that she's named. She's gone into the entertainment industry as well. She's got all of these people that she's named in her affidavits, which has gone into the court system. And so just to give you an outline of what the structure is. So they've got like the first layer is called the five mothers of darkness, and these are like the CEOs of Lucifer or Satan. The second layer is the Satanic Council, and these are the heads of the 13 bloodline families, the ones we talked about earlier, right? And she specifically talked about George Soros in that particular council. And then the next layer is the Grand High Priestesses, and here she's talked about Gloria Vanderbilt, and Missy, you talked about this earlier, and her son Anderson Cooper, who's like, on CNN. And then the department, the fourth layer is the, what's that?
And connects to the Biltmore estate and that pool, and whether Elon was actually, they did stuff to him at the Biltmore house.
Yeah, so they have a baptism at the age of 9, which is what it's like a coming of age sort of thing, right? And so they have to prove themselves essentially to be in alignment with this whole grooming system, right? And so they do like the baptism, and that's where the pool, the Podesta pool, right? The picture that you talked about, right? So that's where the baptisms happen. And what they have to do at those ceremonies is essentially, I know this is graphic, but they have to either kill or eat a child, something like that. So it gets very, very graphic. Anyway,
Raquel,
the fourth layer, yeah.
I just want to ask really quick because, how do we know this woman is telling the truth? I mean, how do we know her stories are accurate?
Well, she's been talking about it for the last 3 years. She's got documented facts about it, like all from it's her experience, and she's related this, and there are many people that have backed up her stories because she's not the only one. There are other people, like she's talked about like thousands of kids that come in and that are trained and groomed, and there are many that have been sacrificed. They call them like, what is the term? She used something, it'll come to me. But anyway, they need they need kids for, to be sold on the market to keep this machine like, running essentially.
The blood
and then
machine.
You have the adrenochrome and all of that sort of fits into this whole scenario, right?
I'm saying more like with Elon, because his biography, who is written by Isaac, what's his name? Isaac, the bibliography, you know what I'm talking about? That bibliography. Walter Isaacson states something very different. So I feel like there's conflicting.
Well, I don't know. Like, this is her story, right? So I just wanted to give you guys like a version of what somebody else is talking about this guy. So, they were trained together, and this is the dark, backdrop of what she claims that she came from. And this guy was apparently right beside her. But then again, if you look at like a few years ago, Ani, there was a picture of him and his mother. I think it was like at a Halloween get together or something like that. He was wearing this really weird outfit. I don't know if you saw that picture, but it had like an icon on his chest, which was like the symbol of the ram, and it had like the inverted cross, which is the satanic cross. So that was right on his chest, and that was just like a few days ago. So who's to tell if he's still involved in these in these rituals? I'd like to think that he's not, because what he's obviously doing right now is a good thing, right? So if he's made that choice to work for the light rather than for the dark, then good for him. And I'd like to think that, but I just wanted to give you guys a backdrop of what this other person is talking about. And even she, in all of her testimony, she's like, I really want Elon to, to stand beside me and testify against all of these beings, right? And this ideology, basically. So yeah, I mean, it's very deep and dark. Yeah.
Is it coming from his mother's side or father's side?
I believe it's his mother's side. I don't know too much about his father, but yeah, I've just heard his mother's name pop up.
You know what's interesting when it comes to MK Ultra and all this stuff? It's a lot like the movie Eyes Wide Shut. So sometimes when these sacrifice things happen, they happen actually somewhere else, it's not necessarily always where the ritual is. It's really weird. And it's like that movie Rosemary's Baby, and it's like in this liminal astral space, even like with alien abduction and things like that, a lot of it isn't even physical. It's like in another dimension. And there's something called altars. The face mask of the front is something different than the ones behind that are programmed that don't even know what's going on. It's so
it's
so,
a lot
like,
to do
Is this
with
it? The picture?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, if you look closely, like towards the black part, like just in the middle of his chest, it's like the picture of a ram and an inverted cross right in the middle of that. If you
Interesting.
zoom into that, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, it's not very
I
clear.
just want to
Well,
finish this
and it
up.
is
So
interesting how he does always wear the black MAGA hat. It's like a black MAGA. He doesn't ever wear the red one. He's always wearing the black. I feel like that's something to take note of as well. I really would truly, I mean, would like to believe though that everything connected to child harvesting, child sex trafficking, child satanic ritual abuse, that these things are being cleansed and purged from the earth. Like I want to feel that to be true. I feel like it is true. I feel like, you know, not that I put all of my ducks in these people's hands in any ways, but you know, when you see Kash Patel coming forward, it seems like, you know, going after the pedophilia rings. I mean, this is why it's all coming to the light anyways. This is why, you know, the whole Tommy Robinson thing and us actually waking up to the immigration problems and all of these things. I feel like all of this is connected to us trying to bring this to an end. Why the Epstein, you know, thing happened. And I mean, I think will come more and more to the light. There's reasons why it hasn't, because there's still dark forces that are holding things back. There's still people that are like, you know, going to be thrown under the bus if that all that information comes forward. But that what has at least come forward is enough to get the ball rolling in the direction of, you know, clearing this up as much as possible. And this we have to remember and believe too that it's a collective shift in consciousness, and we can't fully transcend the weakest or most unevolved person at the end of the day. Like it's all about co-collective creation and manifestation. So as each one wakes up to it, you know, we're clearing that collective akash together. So I mean,
yeah,
I know
I
you
mean,
guys
when you
know the
think about
process
it,
of it all, but
yeah, when you think about it, he could just as well be trapped in this whole situation, right? And wanting a way to get out, right? So this could very well be his way of getting out and doing it in the most powerful way, with integrity, right? So I don't know. I'd really like to believe that.
I mean, that's why we have to look at his motives. I mean, he said that he wanted to kill the woke mind virus because he had one of his children that I guess decided to transition, that's transgender. And so that's his whole motive behind, I think, wanting to kill that. I mean, he's literally said that. So you see that that's now being deeply dismantled. And I think it took a group of these people coming together to say, like, no more on that. And we all feel that that's a good thing. So, and I think we also have to keep the hope and the faith that, like, everybody has a light side and everybody has a dark side. And of course, that duality is always mirroring and playing out in some way. We can see those reflections. But I mean, to preserve the faith that there is eternal goodness in the universe and that eternal light is flowing through, even though we know that there's all kinds of different hybrid beings and hybrid agendas. And that's what I think we're dismantling more now is the hybrid agendas. You know, because with him, me and Ani were talking about this and we were like, is this a forced breeder program? And you're like, I don't know if I feel like this is a forced breeder program with him. It's like something else.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's a force, but I do feel like the karma that's coming forth from it and having all these children and not treating them equally is going to be an issue in the future, you know. And he is priming the one child for whatever reason. He has some type of connection.
Yeah.
It's a preservation of race consciousness. I think it's like he's trying to preserve the race, I think, is why he's having all these kids to a degree.
Right. And so it's not really Yeah. It doesn't seem like a responsible thing to do, but from the story of that one, the new one that came forth, she said that she felt like, she couldn't leave her house. She couldn't tell anybody, there's no acknowledgement. Like, who knows if the child is even his anyways? Like, there's, where's like, he hasn't come out and said it is yet. So we don't know for sure. However, she is stating that she felt like she was in this like type of like, she was almost like imprisoned in her apartment, during pregnancy and afterwards. And so it's a very strange and awkward situation, for the kids growing up and all the mothers. And I'm sure this will not be the last child that he has. I'm sure there'll be at least 10 more.
Do you
I'm
know if
guessing
he has any siblings? I don't know
he
about
does.
that.
He has 3
Oh, okay.
others. So I think there's 4 or maybe 2 other siblings. Yeah.
Yeah, I just pulled a picture of her up. I'll just screen share. Let's see. Yeah, this is the new one.
Mm-hmm.
Is her name Irish Star? She's like a social media influencer.
I know her name is something else. It's Ashley St. Clair.
Okay. Yeah, Ashley St. Clair. I mean, it seems like she wants things to be kept pretty private. Like, she's pretty upset that people are dragging her into the limelight when it comes to this, and that she had like pictures of her being posted like nude when she was
Naked.
15 years old. Like, they're really trying to throw her under the bus, I guess. But I mean, again, I think this is why this comes back to his morality, like looking at like what is he choosing to do, because I think in terms of the female collective anyways, like we look at things like that, because we would think like a man of like high honor would be
Or
with
respectful.
more respectful,
Yeah.
exactly, be with one woman, maybe a woman of like a higher, like, a woman that has class, a woman that is more has etiquette and elegance and higher consciousness. But it's like he's kind of chasing these like, you know, I mean, to me, she's just kind of like an average girl. I mean, there's really not much too special. She doesn't seem like she's very artistic. She's more of like a social media politician, like she's more following politics and things like that. So I don't know. It's just a strange thing.
Yep.
I think it
Interesting.
goes back to not having emotional intelligence again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Well, let's see what everybody is saying in the comments here. Victoria Rowe, he's a magician. Trapped in violence, glorified, personal, transmute our inner darkness to light. Oh, yeah, we have to have discernment. I absolutely agree. My boy, I raised Gemini like both Cain and Abel. He's much happier as Abel than Cain. I think there's some person or inter conversations going on here. Yeah, Jim says check her post on X. I haven't gone over to her page yet to check it yet. A woman with honor and purity agreeing with us. Yeah, you think he would be choosing something like that? Like, because it's kind of like he's just like just pollinating anybody, and that's she's an empty soul. Yeah, she does. The one I liked the most was Grimes. I'll be honest with you. I liked Grimes. I was a little, I mean, at least she was like innovative, she was kind of like had her own thing going, her own artistry going. Even though it was kind of like a strange pair up with those two. Elon's apparent salute pretty much got me seeing him differently. Yeah, the Nazi salute. Does anyone have any comments to the Nazi salute that he did?
I don't think it
Was
was
that
an
was that a neurodivergent move?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because he was getting excited. So he's, look at, if you go around autistic children, they do that. They move like that. They get all excited like that. He's like, yeah, yeah. And it looks like a Nazi, but he was excited. He was touching his heart and then like going like, hi, everybody. And he was like jumping around. So that is a complete neurodivergent move, in my opinion. But that's just me being around autistic people. So I know,
Yeah,
I know
think
how
that
they
was,
behave.
I think that was misunderstood as well.
Yeah.
Too.
Victoria says black maga means black magician. Could be. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we all teeter on this fence when it comes to him. Like we're not entirely sure. You know, we've been going back and forth on the subject of Elon for quite some times, and we always come back to the same place. Like we're still like not sure.
I think we should
Yeah.
do a Gridwork mission on him alone. And just
Elon Musk
take away
Gridwork.
all the darkness from his soul.
Yeah. Well, I mean, remember with that one guy, what's his name? Matthias De Stefano, he brought up that really interesting point where he, his name, Elon, Elohim, Elion, the
Yeah.
Elohim,
Bring that up.
which
We were
is,
talking-
and Elohim means powerful ones, and it's plural. It's plural though in Hebrew, but I find that fascinating. Like, is there some type of connection there?
Should we watch this video? The true nature
Sure.
of Donald Trump and Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's check this one out because this kind of goes into that. That will be the last video that we watch. Okay, check this out, you guys.
Who is Elon Musk? What is the energy of Elon Musk? Is he an alien?
Oh, that's a lot of talk here. Elon means tree, is a specific tree. And I have been in ceremonies where some beings from other levels of consciousness, they have explained me and had mentioned him with the name Elohim under a mask. So it's basically Elohim under a mask. So he said, from the origin of humanity towards the new world. And, in history, Elohims are different aspects of God, like archangels for the Greek tradition. And there are embodiments of different powers that can change everything, that can transform everything. And I think that he's that. He's a vessel for a powerful Elohim that can change everything. And but the Elohims are radiation. So it means that archangels are not like just simple angels that come with wings and are like lovely. Archangels and Elohims are basically powerful light that can kill everything if it's not measured, that can destroy everything around if they are not in the purpose center. If they are in the center, they can transform everything. If they are not in the center, they can destroy it. So it's just the same energy. It's like Shiva. So Elon is kind of like that. And I think I'm trying to summarize a lot of things, but and I think he's very useful for the system, and he's gonna help to change everything, but only if he comes back to the heart, because he's now in the mind. Through the mind, he's not gonna heal this planet. He's gonna destroy.
Seems like he has a desire to go to the heart based off of things I know about him from people that know him and parties they've been to with him and whatnot. He has a tendency towards.
I'm totally sure about. Yeah.
People like that. I have experience with working with some people like that, influential, like billionaire type people, and it seems like that is the hardest thing in my limited experience, is like to get out of the mind. It's almost like they're like trapped in the mind.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. And the mind gives so many answers that they think they have the answer. And that's one of the things. So I think one of the greatest changes that we have to go through in the next 10 years, it's going to be, how do we bring those people, the ones that are going to actually do the change of the planet, to the heart, and to let them understand that the heart is not about love.
What is the heart about?
Heart is about the right rhythm of time, the right pulse. So it's not about, oh, we love each other and hug each other. No, that's not here. That's the pancreas. The heart is not love. Heart is harmony.
Yeah, that's like heart-brain coherence. Getting into, yeah. All right, last question. Who is Donald Trump? Who or what is Donald Trump? Is Donald Trump a human? He seems more like a human to me.
He's very human.
Yeah.
I can tell he's very human.
Yeah. I think there's something nice about that. It's good to have a couple of humans running around, run the country every now and again.
I think it's a very useful tool for people to start thinking about what actually democracy and truth is. So I'm not saying that he represents the truth and democracy, but I'm not saying that the opposite represent that. I'm just saying that he is a very useful tool that represents the human consciousness today to show everybody that we have to think in a different way, that we cannot think as we used to think before. We cannot think about bad people and good people. We cannot think about rich and poor. We cannot think about truth or lies. There is much more, and we have to start to reframe that. And I think that he is a tool for that.
Can I just make one correction on the Elohim? He was not fully correct. I know that it was coming from his vision, but based upon the two biblical scholars, one of them is Paul Wallace, and he was a bishop and taught biblical studies for multiple years. And then Mauro Biglino is also a biblical scholar, and he translated in Hebrew for the Vatican, the Pentateuch. So he translated, and both of them argue that the Bible is basically paleo contact, and like the Elohim were multiple, called the powerful ones, and they were not God, but they were, basically, aliens coming down here and messing with humans. And so what they say is the Elohim are translated as the powerful ones, and there was 200 Elohim that came down here or came on Earth. And
that very much parallels the Nephilim story, though.
Yeah.
The Elohim, I feel like, are the Nephilim.
So the Nephilim are the children. So the Elohim, the 200 of them bred with, breeder program, took women and bred with them, basically. And then their children are the Nephilim, which were the ones that went freaking nuts and crazy. And so I just wanted to be clear on that. And if anybody wants to go look it up, read Paul Wallace's stuff and Mauro Biglino, but they completely and utterly advocate for paleo contact. And they actually, a lot of people have tried to discredit them, but they're very, very good scholars. And so
when you say paleo contact, what do you mean by that?
Paleo contact is basically ancient contact of, UFO type contact, but ancient times. So thousands of years ago. And so they are both arguing that they think that the Bible is a story that has been completely and utterly, destroyed, and, the story has been ripped apart and rewritten, but it's an ancient story stemming back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, probably the original where humans when they actually did get genetically modified. So it's a very, very, very old story. Missy, you're muted.
Which takes us back to the gold.
Yep.
Yeah.
God, little g, God's with the little g, and
right.
I know Christiana Dean called it first, there was the Elohai, and then when they were corrupted, it was the Elohim. But you know what I was thinking? We need to pull Elon's chart. We need to look at his astrological chart. Then we can figure out what.
Yeah, I've done that before. It's actually on my website. If you go to my website under my starseed readings, we could look at it. But I just want to comment too. Shannon says this brings me to our session yesterday, what we found under the ocean. Yeah, we did a clearing, and because this has got me thinking about the Elohim and the Nephilim too. We went inside the earth and then seen the Nephilim inside the earth.
They're hiding.
They were chained up inside the earth, and they were angry over the crystals and the selenite.
So for some reason, what I came to this thought the other day is that they never left the earth. They came here because their planet and I don't know why, but I feel personally that there's some type of connection to Mars. And I know people would argue against me, but I think that for some reason I have this intuition that that has something to do with Mars. And when Mars was beginning to be destroyed, they came here because they needed a planet to live on. And that's why there were 200 of them. Then there was the ones on Mars that were left there, and they are still there in pyramids in their stasis space, but they point or whatever, like within those type of like stasis pods, but they died because no one ever came back for them because it's been thousands and thousands of years. And I
It
don't think,
almost makes me feel like they would have been the Anunnaki then, because it's like
yeah,
whoever descended at Mount Hermon, I mean, that was not very far from Uruk and ancient Babylon and ancient
yeah,
Sumeria and the Persian Gulf. Like it's all
I
very
think they are.
connected. Yeah.
I think that Nibiru is Mars. I almost want to do deeper research into this, like where I can like put the puzzle. Like I have
Yeah.
to go back and read the cuneiform text myself, but yeah, just to do this like deeper research and start putting the puzzles together. But I have a feeling just
No,
intuitively
that feels
Mars.
very resonant to me as well. And it also feels like, I mean, I've done remote viewing on Mars, and I feel like this also ties into the gold. I mean, I've done deep dives on it where I seen that they were taking the gold off planet and taking it to Mars and removing the value system off the planet.
They were
So,
using it for their technology. I think that's what they were doing. And also maybe for those type of stasis pods. That's why they were able to live for thousands of years because they within those pods, maybe they use gold somehow to who knows, like for the technology of it, which could keep them alive longer.
Do you think
You and
that's
I
why
talked.
he's pushing to go to Mars?
Yeah, I think that there is a
right. Yeah.
deeper
Right? He's like, that's his
story.
driving force right now, right?
And it feels like some sort of time traveling in the past. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like going backwards in time.
We were talking about the Zachariah Sitchin and the mining for gold and all that stuff with the, that's why they tweaked the human. They genetically modified the
Modified.
humans for that purpose. Yeah.
I think, yeah, Adam and Eve, they were the first genetically modified, probably humans. Or in the Garden of Eden, that is where the genetic modification
So they
was.
landed in the Garden of Eden, force bred them or force
Yeah.
mated with Eve, and she was the first woman taken for the force breeder program and castrated the men. I mean, the men that were here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And it's going back to the Elon. Well, the only reason why I started going down this path was, yeah, what Matthias said about Elon, Elohim, Elonhim. I'm like, wow, that really resonates.
Yeah, it really does resonate. Well, and that's the thing too, is because the Elohim, I mean, that's the duality with it. Like they're good and bad because supposedly they're also the protectors of creation. And, like a lot of times when I've seen them energetically, they're more or less geometrical constructs that actually hold like the rainbow spheres, like the creation spheres in the planet, like the actual hologram for that. And so it's very confusing. I think I like what the Mateus guy said there at the end because he said that we're going to be moving into a time where we can't think in duality anymore. This is the problem with it is we're thinking in light and dark, we're thinking in good and bad, and that this could be an old way of thinking. If we are truly shifting into the gold grid, the gold activations, the gold quality, wealth, and value is returning to the places that it belongs, right? Starting with the United States, starting with this in terms of a planetary level as well. And this also connects to the volcanoes, the volcanic systems as well. But that this is somehow pulling us out of that positive and negative polarity, that this will pull us into the null factor, the RH null in the blood, and that we'll be getting, this is all New Earth prophecy stuff, but that shift will have to occur. Consciousness will have to, because right, the way we think is the basis of duality. It's all within the mental spheres of the mind. So that's going to have to change for us to, we can't see things as light or dark. We can't see people as light or dark. We can't, we got to somehow pull that because we do have an inclination to do that. We do have an inclination to demonize and to, look for the dark. And it's all the way that we think and which creates the reality and the dimension we experience. So
I wonder what, like he was just talking about the heart connection to frequency, right? I wonder if that's where AI is going to go eventually, and maybe there's a connection to the goal there too.
it's gotta
AI
be.
can help us and tell us whether we are connecting to our heart. I mean, well, that's something outside of us, but they can monitor our heart
Yeah.
rate.
Yeah. Well, this has been an interesting conversation. We never know which way it's going to go entirely, do we? It's kind of like throw it out there and see what comes up. But I think we definitely hit it on the head with this whole Elohim conversation, like definitely bringing that in. I mean, because we've questioned so long, like, is he an ET, this or that? This makes the most sense, actually,
Mhm.
with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the name
I have
Musk.
a strong feeling about his connection to Mars. It could be that he's had a past life and that some of his energies are trapped there, or his family or his soul family is somehow connected and is trapped there. There's something to do with that. I can't really get a lot of clarity on that, but there's something that's pulling him towards Mars. So it's got to be something connected to his soul energy.
Shannon says Mars is where Elon's soul was captured when I did the session with him. Um,
Oh, wow. There you go.
we did his soul retrieval again. This was in December, but his soul was in chains. He was not willingly there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
See, that's definitely something that,
Willingly at Mars or in Mars.
Yeah, that might be what she means.
Hmm.
Soul is in chains. He was not willingly there. Maybe willingly on Mars. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
there's
we
something
did
definitely
see the
there.
other day him going into that trance state. So, I mean, he is connecting with something.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
clearly
Musk,
something was coming
the
through.
last name, the last name Musk, I think of, Animal Musk, cologne, and there's that whole breeder thing going on with the musk, with the smell, the
And if Alex Cortez is still watching and Jim Montgomery, they donated. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that. It helps so much. Yeah, thank you very much. Put little hearts. Well, yeah, this has been an amazing show. Thank you everyone for watching. Is there anything else you ladies would like to say? Anything to sum it up anymore? I think we pretty much got everything out. So yeah. Yeah, just so you guys know, we are gonna do the New Earth Prophecy course. I think we're starting Saturday, so I hope to see you guys there, and links are down in the description for that. I hope you will be joining me, and it was lovely tuning in with you all, and I hope everyone has a beautiful evening, and namaste, peace, have a good night.